And welcome everybody to today's Investor Q&A with Angus from Medibis. So my name is Temin. I'm one of the campaign managers here at Birchal. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from which I'm beaming to you today. So Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Now, I've had the pleasure of working with the Medibis team preparing for their campaign. And I know you're all much more excited to hear from Angus, but I'll give you a little note from Birchal first. So as the licensed intermediary for the offer, Birchal Financial Services is working with Medibis on their upcoming crowdsourced funding offer. So in case you're not aware what crowdsourced funding is maybe for your first time jumping on the Birchal platform, crowdsourced funding is a relatively new form of fundraising in Australia, that allows startups and small businesses to raise capital from a large number of smaller or retail investors, and also wholesale or sophisticated investors through an online platform, which is Birchal. So instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks or venture capitalists, companies can actually turn to the general public, often their communities, to raise money in exchange for equity in their business. It's pretty cool, right? So the information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as advice or recommendation to invest. Please do your own research and always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning before investing. There's plenty more information about all of this on birchal.com. Now, today's session is going to run through a short-ish presentation from Angus, about 15-20 minutes, maybe longer, all about Medibis, where they've come from, what they're looking to do with the capital raise, and then we'll switch to the Q&A session. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, there should be a little Q&A bubble there. If you have any questions throughout today's session, please pop them in there, and then when we jump to the Q&A session, we'll have time to go through those. And we are also recording today's session, so if you do have to jump off early, the recording will be sent around afterwards. And now that's enough from me. Over to you, Angus. Take it away.
Thank you, Temin. So hi, everyone. I'm Angus Chappell, the founder and managing director at Medibis. Super exciting to be here. I don't normally do this kind of thing, so it is a little bit nerve-wracking at the same time. But, we've had really some wonderful support from you guys so far, and thank you for turning up here today as well. It's really great to see. So I think without further ado, most of the information is in here in the document. So I'll get sharing the screen and we'll get it underway.
Sounds good.
How's that?
Good to me. Perfect.
Yep. So as you all know, I would expect by now, we are Medibis. So we're largely Australian owned. There are some OS shareholders from the last raise. And what we do is provide solutions for cannabis care for patients in Australia. So not only providing medicine, but working to educate prescribers on what actually that means, what the medicine is. And we'll go in a little bit detail as we go further, but the education piece around what's happening here in this space is actually really exciting and really important as well. So it's not only a new medicine, it's a new system of the body that we've discovered. And as many of you might know, some of you may not, this system is in almost every animal on the planet. So it's more than just a new medicine that we're using to treat old problems. It's a whole new way of thinking about how we treat healthcare. So that's the way that Medibis approaches what we're doing here, and that's why it's incredibly exciting. Why are we doing what we're doing? As it says there, many conventional treatments for conditions are ineffective. There's a lot of people out there that reach out to me and that are desperate for some outcome and desperate for something that actually works and helps them. So that's what this space is all about, and that's what Medibis is all about. So what have we done today? Traction. So we've delivered a scalable platform. So we've put the key building blocks in place to deliver products to the market, to accompany those products with education, a vast amount of our time in the last year or 2 years have gone into research and assembling a database of peer-reviewed, scientific evidence that comes with some weight. There's a lot of scientific evidence out there that doesn't necessarily hold the weight that we would value, so that we can talk to the prescribers in confidence, and that we can talk to patients with confidence as well about what this actually is and what it isn't. Very important as well to determine and to define what it is and what it isn't. So we've built this platform. We've partnered with a company called Healer in the States. You'll see from our website, prescribers can go and log on and do self-paced learning. We also have, products in the market all over the country. So from our list of approvals, we've seen products dispensed in every state in the country from thousands and thousands of pharmacies. So that model, that's a working model, and that's currently where we sit. The key products, again, we use this science as a basis for when we select products. So what's the composition of it? Obviously, there's the regulatory side. Does it comply with TGO 93 and TGO 100 if we're talking about flour? But what really is special about this product? And if there's nothing special about it, then it's not a Medibis product. Blue Mountain Global. So in the early days, this medicine was really expensive and actually quite prohibitively so. Many patients were saying, we can't afford it. It's not a medicine for the people, which is true. It was a new market. There was only a small amount of patients. So companies that launched in those early phases didn't really have an economy of scale. Everything was actually quite expensive. Now we've seen it normalize. One of the reasons we launched Blue Mountain Global was specifically to make those products more accessible to patients. So Medibis is about what's the best quality possible product that we can find that has some real scientific uniqueness about it, or some validation. Maybe it was involved in a trial, or maybe it's got some more further clinical validation behind it. And Blue Mountain Global is what's the best product that we can find at the best price and pass those savings on to the patient. So far, we've taken a low risk approach. So we haven't bought assets. We've kept our operation quite lean, and we've even leaned off further in this financial year than last financial year, after the previous raise. So you'll see quite a big jump there in revenue. That's us with our products out there in the market. This year we are still we're on track to outperform that already, which is quite exciting. Yeah, so we're in the market making revenue, and this whole raise is about turning that up, turning the wick up on the products, further reach, further expanding out the portfolio to make sure that we've got a range of products for everybody. So this revenue that you see is from some launches. Some products were discontinued. The products that we stood behind and that the prescribers and the patients supported have stayed. Now we're looking to specifically develop products for indications or for a certain demographic. So some of those products for a specific indication, let's say, might have a specific ratio of cannabinoids or a unique carrier oil that has additional therapeutic benefits, maybe other than MCT or olive oil. And for demographics, we're talking about dosing methods. So let's say for aged care, people aren't going to vaporize flour traditionally in an aged care home. Some of them have problems with swallowing oil, or they can't self-administer their own medicine. Medicine needs to be administered by a nurse or a support carer. So what are better dosage formulations for those kinds of demographics? Perhaps it's gummies, which is something that's increasing in popularity. perhaps it's capsules. One of the problems in aged care with oil is that you can't actually get the last little bit out of the bottle when you're using a syringe. So there's unrecorded waste, and the nurses are having issues, validating and justifying where all those dosages went. So capsules, for example, in that application are a great idea. So it's really about setting up the portfolio very specifically and engaging with those groups, with those demographic groups, and the prescribers that are engaged in those activities, and making sure we're giving them exactly what they need and what they want. Some of our proudest moments, there he is, Drew Mitchell. You've probably seen him all over the news. He's an absolute legend. He's doing really well, and he really loves, the outcomes that he's been getting from cannabis, and it's quite touching, actually, and heartwarming to see somebody that has come from that background, that isn't, that hadn't come across cannabis before. He's a great story, actually. Went down a conventional pathway for anxiety, was on Lexapro. I don't know if you saw all of the details in the story, which helped for a while. But overall, when you start measuring, is this really helping me? Is this giving my life back? Is this controlling my anxiety or managing my anxiety? The answer was no. So I came across Drew. I got him an appointment through one of our partner clinics, and we started working together on integrating cannabis into the picture. I mean, really, I'm the facilitator because I'm not a clinician. So I have trusted doctors and partners that I work with that I know are going to offer the right level of care. And he has had these amazing breakthroughs, absolutely amazing. He said to me, I've got my life back, which, I think if you haven't been in that situation, that might just sound like a cool story. But if you have been in that situation, wow, that's life-changing. He's happy, he can sleep, he can eat, his anxiety is under control. He's got some short-term measures with flower, the long-term with the oil, the long duration with the oil, the shorter duration with the flower. He more enjoys the oil, which I find most people do get a result around with those things. So it's super exciting to have him on board, and he's an absolute legend. The raise, when we did our last raise, the support again from you guys was just amazing. That really enabled us to build what we've built, the foundation, the pathwork, the network of prescribers, the network of clinics, the network of distribution pathways. There's not a town in Australia that can't access one of our products. So I don't know, that might not sound like much, but that was a lot of work. So I'm really proud of that. Bringing the business from pre-revenue with multiple development pathways, like I said, to delivering revenue. So we could have gone down the growing route. We could have gone down the clinic route. There's so many moving parts in this industry that it is actually really important to focus on what you're doing and swim in your lane and be really good at it. And that's what we've tried to do. So again, it may not sound, compared to other companies that we've set the world on fire, but what we do as far as scientific validation of our products and supporting those products with all of the data. So the doctor can message me and say, hey, what's going on here with this? Or have you used your product for such and such condition? We can give him 10 or 20 papers that we use to validate that product. Most doctors don't like reading those papers because they are really quite lengthy and in-depth. They just read the summary. So one of the things that we do is summarize it for them. We say, here's all the papers that we included in this decision. Here's the summary of the data, and here's the high-level points. Here's the salient points that are interesting to you. So that is what we've built, and we're seeing more and more prescribers actually starting to really understand the value in that. The feedback from patients and prescribers is just amazing. So one of the things that I wanted to do is to make sure that if I'm putting something on the market, that I can stand behind it and that it actually works. And it's not going to work for everybody, and I'll get into why that's the case in a couple of slides' time. But everybody that tries our products absolutely loves them, and it's so great. I don't know if any of you on Reddit or any of the feedback loops or platforms, but there's mixed reviews and mixed feedback about some of the products on the market. I'm not going to speculate as to why that is. All I'm going to say is that I'm really proud that the work that we do to choose a product before we launch it, before we select it, the vendor validation process, the supplier validation process that we go through to make sure that once we're there and we've put something on the market, that it is going to be well received. It makes our job a hell of a lot easier as well. Where once people get a hold of the product and they've tried it and they are happy with it, then the product starts to sell itself. And there's loads of other products on the market that are fantastic as well. So I'm not saying ours is the only one, but that's something that I'm really, I take really seriously, and it means a lot to me. For example, our Medibis Malani, 25% THC, grown in the Kootenays. It's hand trimmed, it's hand loved. I don't know if they sing to it at night. I don't know what they do, but everybody that tries this flower comes back and says, "Wow, that's the best flower I've ever had." And it's cool because when we went out to try to find something like that, that's what we looked for. Who's doing this the best in the world, and why, and what is the best? So that's really important as well. I think a lot of companies out there might not understand really what the best means and what it's about. We've got a full grading system that we use for flower out of 100 points, and it's the cultivation methods, it's the environmental sustainability that's used during those cultivation methods, it's the production process, the nutrition, everything that goes into the growing methodology is all graded. And then once it comes out of that process and is dried and cured and picked and packed for us, then there's a heap of other metrics. So how well were the terpenes preserved? How well was it dried? How well was it cured? And one of the things that people say when they experience this flower is the aroma just fills the room and takes over your olfactory system. So we'll get into that again a little bit later as well when we're talking about the science. And you're probably going to have questions about this, but the olfactory system, when you take in the aroma of a cannabis flower before you vaporize it, your olfactory system is sending messages to your brain to understand, is this good for me or is this bad for me, right? That's the fundamentals of how that system works. So it's trying to steer you away from things that are no good and toward things that are good for you specifically. And it's programmed for you. So some people might go, I like that really limey smell, or I like this really earthy smell over here. And it's very, very much tied into naturopathy as well. And terpenes, that's what's making the smell. So if your body is tuned towards a certain need or a certain deficiency, your olfactory system will say, hey, go this way. This is where you're going to get better. You're going to get some results. And when you screw your nose up and go, oh, I don't really like that one, that's what's happening. It's steering you away from that, going, yeah, we're not really going to see a result over there. So all of these things are really important. And to us, industry-wide, they're not particularly well understood. It's something that really underpins what we do, and our understanding of this and the way that we approach this science and how serious we are about it really sets us apart. The collaboration with these guys in this upcoming trial. So I assume most of you have seen the news articles and you're aware of what's going on here, but we're doing a a clinical trial for sufferers of ASD or neurodivergence. And as I've been working with these guys, it's just amazing the knowledge and the passion, and the way this has come together has been really quite organic. So I've got a nephew. My sister has a boy with ASD, a teenager, and it's been really quite tough, really quite challenging for her the last few years. And she eventually came to me and said, "Look, I don't know, I don't know what to do. I need your help. This nothing works." And again, I'm not sure if any of you have come across this before, but when we've got this healthcare system, one of the best in the world, and somebody says, "I've tried all this stuff and nothing works," so they come to me, "Can you help?" This happened again 2 days ago with another friend of mine who's got a daughter with epilepsy, and he was almost in tears on the phone saying, "Look, I've tried everything, nothing works." And that's really what I was saying on the first slide there. This is a shot at an outcome where people have tried everything, they've exhausted every other avenue, and nothing works. So I'm not saying that nothing in our healthcare system works. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But in some areas, particular areas, and ASD is one of them, we can confidently say that there's no treatment that works. So if you go to a doctor for ASD, and you'll have a psychologist or an occupational therapist, you'll have a few people involved, you're trying to treat the associated symptoms of ASD, and that's all that we're trying to do in this trial as well. There is no cure. It doesn't need to be cured. It's neurodiversity. It should be celebrated. I don't know if you know any people with ASD. A lot of them have incredible superpowers. They just find it hard to integrate into the world. And so, Elon Musk, Beethoven, Jerry Seinfeld, Leonardo da Vinci, these people were all on the spectrum. So we want to try to help these people manage the symptoms that makes it really hard for them to integrate in the world and unleash their amazing talents, right? So I helped my sister. Look, the feedback was, when she first got the medicine, I said, "Look, I really want you to let me know how you go tomorrow. Like, if he's having some medicine today, I want to hear what happens tomorrow." And just the relief in her voice, she said, I didn't expect that. I can't believe how much calmer he is, how well he slept. So the immediate change is actually a really common story. And it's from there, things, it turns into, how can we get an immediate result? And then what's the management of this condition? So I knew Janet. I've known Janet for a couple of years, and talked about, doing research with her. And one day I actually rang her and I said, "Hey, I really want to do a trial." And she said, "Well, funny you should ask, because I'm just in the middle of setting up a trial and I'm looking for an industry partner." Not a word of a lie. And I said, "Okay, well, I was thinking about ASD," and she said, "That's exactly the trial that I've just put together." It was about a week or 2 weeks that she'd been putting this together. I'd been putting this together in the back of my mind, and I rang her that day, and we just, literally couldn't believe that we're both looking for each other for the same reason, right? She works with Professor Andrew Kasheen. So he's Southern Cross University Lismore campus, has written a book on autism and neurodiversity, and that's where I've learned a lot about this. It's actually really quite impressive and quite an easy read. If that's the kind of thing that you like to read and that's up your alley, I absolutely urge you to go and find it and have a read of it. Otherwise, let me know and I can share the soft copy with you. But it's a great all he does is ASD. That's his jam. He's a psychologist and a nurse practitioner, and absolutely the expert on it. It comes to ASD from a compassionate perspective. Again, that it's neurodiversity and that it doesn't need to be fixed, and they're not broken, and it's not treatable. It doesn't need to be treated, but it does come with things like crippling anxiety, actually, and other comorbidities like ADHD or ADD. There's a few things that come with it, because we didn't build the world for neurodiverse people, or your school or your home life or your work life. It's all built for neurotypical people. So trying to find a way to integrate these people is the challenge, and that's what we're aiming to do with this trial, to manage the symptoms of the anxiety, so that there's much more of a middle ground between everybody, and they can function better. So Shane Mitchell was actually diagnosed with ASD 3 years ago. So he's one of the clinicians that I work with at the Budding Wellness Pharmacy there. Absolute legend and cannabis expert. So he loves treating people with ASD and anxiety, because he's got a really intimate understanding of it. So again, these guys were already in my circle. I said, hey, we're doing a trial. Do you want to be involved? So I'm so excited about this, largely based on the group that we've got together and the expertise that sits within that group. I mean, I'm nothing. I'm just the facilitator. I'm along for the ride, paying close attention, and funding it and providing the formula. These guys are the absolute experts, and I'm really excited to see how that goes. Likewise.
Sorry to interrupt, Angus. I'm just being mindful of time. We might want to jump to the Q&A in about 15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay.
Yeah.
UQ as well. So School of Pharmacy, School of Food Science. In the agricultural space, we can do plant trials. We've done some plant trials already. There's quite a lot on the plate there as well down the track. Particularly the School of Pharmacy. The professor there is a pain expert, so there's some exciting stuff in the process there as well. Opportunities for growth. There are a lot of Australian cultivators that have come on board. I meet with them regularly. I love looking at their facility and the way that they grow and their attention to detail, and particularly their expertise. So I'm always looking for partners to cultivate. So within our network, we've got a lot of cultivation expertise that mostly comes from Dr. Evan Stevens. So we've got opportunities to grow our genetics using our methodology in an existing facility, to prove it up, to build up mother stock, and then at some stage when the time is right, transfer those cuttings over to a facility that we might own or lease or whatever the commercial arrangement is. But really, it's about that commercial arrangement for us at the moment, and de-risking everything that we do. So that's what I was just talking about. We do have a license, a cultivation license. We have a site set out in Toowoomba. We can move that site through a adjustment or an addendum to that license, to the location. So again, it's really about waiting for the commercials to be really fairly and squarely in our favor. And the design that we've got, the detailed concept design. So when you go into detailed engineering now, you're talking about lengths and measurements and all of the infrastructure and the full material list. We haven't done that yet. We have a detailed design that starts with a micro facility, as small as we can possibly make it, but it's a modular design, so we can start adding on glass houses external to the head house, so that we don't need to redo anything if we decide that we want to scale it up. It's almost a concentric design that's fully scalable. Like I said, we've spent a lot of time building strategic partnerships. So not only with growers, but also with distributors, pharmacies, suppliers, other suppliers, Canadian suppliers. Now, where we are in the industry, we're starting to see some of the terms change. So there's loads of flower available. So I really stand by that decision not to go cultivating at the moment, because we would have seen some really heavy downward pressure on that pricing. Where we sit in the stream as a buyer of raw flower, it means that those favourable terms are coming to us now. So while all of the growers are competing to move their product, we can do much more competitive deals going forward. Multi-stage strategy. So, like I said, we have a wholesale and supply license to move poisons around the country. We can import poisons and export easily enough when the time comes, along with a cultivation license. So we're in a position where we can almost do anything. The only thing we don't have is a manufacturing license, which I'm looking at adding to the stable to make sure that we've got everything that we need to be able to pivot quickly as the market changes. The market is really evolving and moving quite quick. The cash flow means that we are in a position to do those better deals. We know exactly how and when we need to scale and how we need to move those products through the market. And again, the groundwork that we've put into the science really sets us apart. So as prescribers see more and more products coming online, they're starting to wonder, okay, what's the difference between these products? They all look and sound the same to me. It's actually quite confusing for some of them. They're a prescriber, they're not a scientist, and we don't expect them to understand the science. So we provide that support to them. So we can tell you exactly what's going on with our product, with each cannabinoid, and with the mechanisms and the pharmacokinetics of those cannabinoids. So when we launch a product, our science team does a full review and a PowerPoint. Here's what's happening. Here's how it works when you're administering THC and CBD together. Here's what's happening. Here's the complex physiology. Doctors love it. They absolutely love it. Some of them just don't have time. They go, thank you very much. That's amazing. But that's one of the things that we hold as one of the pillars of our strengths. So I talked about the endocannabinoid system. I hope that some of you have heard about it. I'm going to do a really quick version because I can see Taman like tapping her wrist over there. So cannabis, what is cannabis? Why has everybody come here to listen to me to go, this is super exciting, we love cannabis as a medicine? To me, cannabis is the tool that Professor Raphael Mechoulam used to discover the ECS. The big news story in all of this is this. It's the ECS. So why does cannabis work as a medicine? This is how it works. I'm not gonna go into and bore everyone with a science lecture, but it's not just cannabis. It's not a new medicine that we've discovered that just magically fixes everything. It's absolutely not magic. It's science. And this is why. So to me, if you said, what's the biggest discovery in the last, so this was in the 60s, actually, that CBD was first elucidated from Mechoulam, and then later THC. And then in the 80s, they were trying to figure out the mechanism. How is it doing what it's doing? Why do people feel better? Why is the inflammation gone down? We don't understand. And so then in the 80s or late 80s, nearly the 90s, they discovered this microscopic system, the endocannabinoid system, that's been sitting there in your body the whole time, undiscovered. Why was it undiscovered? We didn't have the tools. We didn't have the powerful microscopy to discover it, actually. So they stumbled across it by giving humans cannabis and trying to figure out what was going on. So this is the big story. Every single human, every single animal, apart from insects, they're the only ones that we can't find an ECS, have an ECS. And what does it do? Okay, so very quickly again, it is the system in your body, we call it the master signaling system, that is trying to keep everything in balance. So your body produces heaps of chemicals. You take in nutrients through your food. You have interconnecting pathways with your respiratory system, your nervous system, your pulmonary system, all of these systems in your body that we have experts and specialists in the medical field for. The ECS connects them all and says, what's happening over here in the pancreas? What's happening over here in the brain? Oh, hey, we got some inflammation in the brain. Let's unleash some 2-arachidonyl glycerol, which is 2-AG here. So CBD, very powerful anti-inflammatory. It works the same as 2-AG. So your body makes 2-AG, the plant makes CBD. They do the same thing. Over on the other side, I need to feel good. I need to feel bliss. I need an uplift. We've had a trauma. We've had an injury. We've had an incident. I need to feel better. So give me some anandamide. Anandamide, or AEA, does the same job as THC. Anandamide is what the body makes. THC is what the plant makes. It's not a coincidence that these things do exactly what the compounds that the body makes, that the plant does. That's the magic. Jump on our website. You can actually download this slide. It does have a reverse slide which shows all of the signaling sites across your body when you have the receptor sites across your body when you have cannabis or cannabinoids. And super exciting, but it is probably a little bit sciencey and nerdy and geeky for some of you. The clinical trials we talked about, ASD coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll start the recruitment process. Actually, in a couple of months, we'll start the recruitment process. So it's really in the early stages. Super exciting. If you want to get involved, the criteria is 18 years and up, and a clinical diagnosis of ASD. At this stage, we're looking at doing it across 2 sites, so one in Noosa and one in Lismore. So if you want to be involved and you meet that criteria, please let me know. Our team, absolutely amazing. Most of these guys have been here with me from the start. Alex is relatively new. She does all of our socials. So you've seen all of those tiles and all of that awesome messaging. All of that's put together by Alex. She is from the pharma background. Evan, as I mentioned, these are my overlings, by the way. They're not my underlings. They're absolutely so much better at me at doing all of this stuff. And without them, I would really struggle. Evan is an absolute mad scientist and just, you know, all of that ECS stuff, the way that the primary metabolites and secondary metabolites and the Fisher lock and key principle, the way that those compounds bind to the receptors, that's him. Also the plant. He's an absolute plant guru. He's been an agronomist and a plant nutritionist with the university with SAFs at UQ for 20 years and is just the absolute gun. David, bundle of energy. He has got a background in sales as well, so he helps me with sales, but he's super across the legal stuff and the taxation stuff and is our quality and compliance guy. You know, very, very much attention to detail when it comes to quality and compliance. I absolutely love it. And Joe is super easy to get along with, practical, pragmatic, multi-talented business operations, import, export. She's the absolute gun. There are some more of the team. This is the core team. You know, they do an amazing job, and they really believe in my vision, and they put up with my crazy sidetracks and rabbit holes. Use of funds. So, like I talked about, we want to expand the portfolio in a very specific way. It does take time. I could just buy products from here and there. I get people offering me to buy bulk, once or twice or 3 times a week. But the product lineup will be ensuring that we cover all of the indications that are currently being treated with cannabis. And if you are sciencey and you're paying attention, you'll understand that because of the ECS, that grows, right? Every month that grows, a new condition is found, a new outcome is found. It's really just about understanding how that ECS works. So for now, we're talking pain, anxiety, inflammation, non-cancer related pain. Immunotherapy is a really interesting space. So people that are currently undergoing chemotherapy and conventional immunotherapy are really responsive when they include cannabis for recovery time, boost the immune system, boosts the appetite, and really helps people recover from how brutally aggressive that chemo can be. So the conditions will continue to grow. We're going to position some products right across that spectrum, and again, right across those price points for everybody. The clinical trial is set to get underway. That will also yield a specific and unique formula for anxiety and for ASD related anxiety, but anxiety is for everybody. So really what we're doing is developing a formula for the most chronic and the most severe and the most hard to manage type of anxiety. So from there, it translates across almost all anxiety sufferers. Clinical alignment. So this is really looking into the clinic space, making sure that we've got really strong relationships with prescribers that are experts on our product, that prefer our products to prescribe our products for those reasons, and in some cases, and in this case, have co-developed some of those products. For example, Shane Mitchell's involved with this anxiety formula. So having that feedback loop, having that complete feedback loop is really important for this next stage of making sure that the products have a really strong place in the market and that they are uniquely distinct from a lot of the other products in the market. And obviously working capital for team expansion. So as we grow, that always costs money. So thank you very much for being here. I know that I rambled, and I hope that you enjoy some of the content. As always, please reach out and ask. Go and have a look at that ECS slide on the website and have a bit of a look. Everybody has Google. I really encourage you to go and have a look at the ECS. If you want to understand what cannabis is and what cannabis medicine means, that's the place to start. What I believe that we need is curriculum. So one of the problems at the moment is most prescribers didn't learn about the ECS at med school. They absolutely should. So we work with groups like Lucy Haslam and AMCA to try to get it written into the curriculum. Part of the issue there is, what's the substance of that curriculum? What are we actually teaching them? Because it's still quite new, and there's not a lot of knowledge. One of the other things that we've been working on is cannabis cultivation curriculum with Federation TAFE. So you can now come through TAFE in Victoria. So Federation TAFE is in Victoria, and learn from a a think tank. So a group of us all got together and put together this curriculum around cultivation and what it means to be a cannabis, specifically a cannabis cultivator. So it's way more to me than just dumping products on the market and hoping that people pick them up. It's about making a big change and going, it's not just a medicine that may or may not work, it's the discovery of the endocannabinoid system. And so we really need to do our best to understand what that is. And I mean, not what it is, how it works. So once we get a much better understanding of how it works, then we can line up the medicine with the indication. And look, maybe we should do another webinar because I could talk about this for hours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Angus.
Yeah.
That was such a great presentation. We have a bunch of questions that we want to get to, so I might jump over to the Q&A session.
Awesome.
And we actually had, one of the first comments that came through was, whether there was any opportunity to farmers. They are commercially farming already and would like to be part of a supply. So I will be sending their contact details after this webinar. Another question that came through is production totally in Australia?
No. For Medibis, you mean, or for the whole industry? Yeah, so some of our products are grown in Victoria. I'm on the Sunshine Coast. We have a new grower up here who I've been working with and helping them get ready to start cultivating. So wherever we can, I love having Australian plants. There were a couple of cultivators at the start. I'm not going to name names who let us down and promised a lot and couldn't deliver anything. So it's a bit of a, so we've hedged our bets. So we go, we want to support the Australian, but I can't put all my eggs in that basket because I'm not 100% convinced that we're fully there yet. So some of the products come from Canada as well, but there's loads of jurisdictions now, legal pathways, where that product can come from as raw flower, and we package it and finish it here in most cases.
Awesome, thank you for that. We had another question that comes through that's essentially, in such a crowded market, can you give me a really quick summary about just key points where you stand out from competitors?
So one of the things is really the science and the work that we do to understand what goes into the product. Why we would choose those products is for scientific reasons. And again, it all relates back to the endocannabinoid system. So if we can close that loop and prove that pathway, here's a product. So a lot of the suppliers out there just picking a product and going, hey, it works. And if you went to challenge them, why does it work or how does it work, then it all falls over. So we can back that up scientifically and give very detailed and specific explanations as to what's going on with each of those formulations. The flower, for example, has one of the reasons it was chosen was because of its high expression of CBG and CBC. And again, we go and do the research. We put the groundwork in to find the papers that are peer-reviewed, that come from a reputable school or a reputable academic pathway, and integrate that into what we already know. So we end up building a database of knowledge that's really robust, and that forms the basis of all of our decisions, so that we can truly say that we are patient-centric, that we've made all of these decisions based on getting the best possible outcome for the patient.
Awesome, thank you. And we've also had a bunch of questions come through about kind of what's the price of the round and kind of the financial details, and I might just cover those off for you. So I'll just let everybody know a little bit more about the process we are in. So we're currently still in the expression of interest phase, where we're getting market feedback in terms of like a range of different parameters. So the full terms of the offer, valuation, share price, investors in the business, last 12 months of financial information will all be included in the offer document. So those key terms of the offer document, the company constitution, and the subscription agreement will be made public when the offer goes live next week. So if you've expressed interest in the campaign, you'll be receiving regular updates from the Medibis team about how that offer launch is progressing. And in terms of future financial information, there was a question that came through about that. Essentially, with the crowdsourced funding offer, they go through a licensed intermediary, which is Birchal, and ASIC, which is the regulatory body, takes a very firm view about future projections. So whether that be product, revenue, or return on investment. So a lot of these ventures are very early stage and don't have large trading histories often. So it's misleading to include information in these offers that could be considered misleading or speculative, such as projected growth or revenue. So what they will receive in the offer document is the last 12 months of financial information. You'll be able to see what position the company is in right now, their accomplishments, their customer database, et cetera, and what they plan to do with the funding. And the other part of the offer document as well is the risk section. So the company is raising capital, and of course, it's important to also factor in these risks when considering your investment. Now, back over to you, Angus. Sorry about that interlude from me. In terms of if you have any rough numbers on you, how many doctors are currently prescribing your products? Where are they currently stocked? Yeah.
It's hard to know the number of doctors. We do 6 monthly reports to the TGA that collate that data, but we're well and truly up over 10,000 products. So the numbers there, if you account for repeats, is somewhere around 5,000. Any doctor, the products are on best practice, so any doctor can load up a product and decide to prescribe it whenever they wish. We have distribution in the Gold Coast, in Victoria, in Sydney, in Melbourne. There's a couple in Melbourne, and we're in discussion with the guys over in WA, although all of those distribution centres send products nationally. So a product can be ordered in Darwin today and sent there. If they order in the morning, a lot of our distributors do same day service now. That's something that's really sped up. So they could have the product by this afternoon or tomorrow. Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Awesome. Given that your products are plant-based and probably can't be patented, this is a question that came through. What steps are you going to take to protect your products moving forward, or can they be patented?
They can. You generally can't patent a compound, but you can patent a combination of compounds. So in saying that, there are two on the market at the moment. I assume the question is pointing towards a registration and IP. So Sativex and Epidiolex are both registered products, and they're primarily dronabinol and cannabidiol. So I actually don't know how they got those over the line with the simplicity of those formulations, but certainly unique formulations with unique ratios is something that we're working on, and that's actually part of the plan to take some of these formulations all the way through to a registration. With a flower, that's a hell of a lot harder. But with an oil or a capsule or other dosing formulations like gummies, you can make very specific formulas by combining compounds. Yep.
Awesome. Now, are there any other areas that you'll be focused on besides ASD? Any scope for global developmental delays?
So I would say most of our products are used for pain. So that's certainly something that we want to dig into a little bit deeper, particularly as part of this ASD trial, and some of the expertise that comes along with it also talks about pain and neuropathic pain and how they're all actually interrelated. Anxiety and pain are even interrelated. So it's really just about taking small steps and understanding as we go. So as far as a clinical trial goes, no, I don't have anything else set up other than ASD, but there's certainly areas of specific interest. One of them for me is aged care. So when you think about aged care as a as a group of patients and a group of conditions, so then we're talking about dementia. So Drew Dwyer, you would have seen Dr. Drew Dwyer on the Birchal portal there, is an aged care expert, and we have a great strategy together to start making bespoke products for those patients. In particular, a great substitute for antipsychotic is one that I'm really interested in. So Parkinson's is another one of our original founders has been living with early Parkinson's from an early diagnosis for many years, and using cannabis to great effect. Really remarkable. And I don't know if some of you have seen that video where it's almost immediate to remove the tremors. And so all of that motor neuron stuff is super interesting. Particularly, it started with epilepsy and CBD. All of those areas are particularly interesting to me. What we need to do now is swim in our lane and do what we can do with the team that we've got. So I guess the answer is yes, I'm absolutely interested in loads of other areas. Yeah.
So I would also just love to touch on quickly, just being conscious of time.
Sure.
You obviously have these two streams. One where you're like heavily focusing on these clinical trials, which is amazing, and then obviously expanding your portfolios and expanding the distribution of your products. What is the strategy to continue growing distribution of your products?
So to me, somebody mentioned earlier, hey, there's loads of products in the market. It's really about pushing forward with these relationships with prescribers that they can trust you and that they can trust the product, and they believe that that you're doing your best to bring the best possible products to the patients. A lot of it is around education and support. It's quite a daunting undertaking for a prescriber to suddenly start decide that they're going to start prescribing cannabis. As you've seen throughout the presentation, cannabis isn't just one thing; it's a multitude of things, and the magic of getting a result is really in that understanding of the ECS. So, on a commercial level, it's about having the right product at the right price. That's the low-hanging fruit. We have products at the right price all across the price points, all across the product lineup. That's a huge growth opportunity, and we've seen that already from all of the launches of products that we've done. We've collected that data. That's an immediate and short-term strategy that we're obviously rolling out as part of this campaign. The longer-term strategy is to get some really robust data around some unique formulations like we're doing with ASD and anxiety. And then the even longer-term strategy is to lobby for that change, to lobby for, hey, the ECS should be included in the curriculum in all of the medical schools curriculum. So who's going to write that content? Who's going to lobby and push for that change? Well, that's something that we do. We want to be known as the educators, and there's groups coming together. I think part of a great growth strategy is partnering and consolidation and working together, and that's something that we're really focused on over the next 12 months as well. We understand, due to the pace of this industry and the complexity of all of these moving parts, that we're likely not going to be able to achieve everything on our own. So partnering with allies who have a particular strength in a particular area, and then as a group we outperform the individual components.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We might wrap up there. That was such an
Yeah.
awesome presentation. Thank you everybody for joining today's investor Q&A. As I mentioned earlier, recording of this Q&A will be sent around for those who's registered. So in case anybody missed out, you can feel free to share that. Now, the expression of interest campaign for Medibis is live for another couple of days. So if you haven't already, jump over to the Birchal platform, check out their pitch video and company profile, get in contact with Angus if you have any more questions. And the early access offer campaign will open next week. So make sure you get your expression in to have access to the early access to the offer when it goes live next week. Thanks again, Angus, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Tammin, and thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you soon.